Watkins. So if you want to have intelligent conversations and you want to be challenged in your thinking, then feel free to follow us at The Real Boyce Watkins. Shout out the city that you're from. Let me know where you're coming from. And the world is a crazy place right now. And so I'm actually kind of feeling, I have mixed feelings about sort of some of the things that I'm seeing. You know, some things I see, are worth talking about. Some things I want to ignore them. But, sometimes it just calls you. This is something that needs to be said. And so one of the things, what's up, Super Jazz from Louisville, and Mike, is that Meek or Mike from Baltimore? Good to see you. I'm not going to talk long. Tulsa, I see you in here. I want to talk about Kamala Harris for a minute. Kamala Harris, first of all, let me ask you guys this question. Give me a yes or no if you are cool with Kamala. Like if Kamala is cool for you, give me a yes or no in terms of how you feel about Kamala Harris as a presidential candidate. Yes or no? Is she your girl, or no? You rather see somebody else? How do you feel? Give me a yes or no. And I asked that question because I my goal is not to I hate being the asshole in the room. I really do. But I think it's important to at least lay things out there. It's, in a way, it reminds me when I was a kid, my mother used to tell me stuff that I didn't really want to hear. And I'd be like, oh, mama, you just being mean. You being a hater. Like, why you bother me? Like she would make me do stuff like, like prepare for college or like take a bath, stuff that you didn't want to do when you was a kid. And but my mother would just kind of say it anyway, right? And she didn't care if I thought she was a hater or if I was mad at her. She didn't give a damn. She would just say whatever. Like you're gonna do what you need to do. And so anyway, so with Kamala, and not even just Kamala, it's really more so about politics in general. I personally think that there needs to be different voices out here. Not so that we can tell you what to do. I'm not campaigning to get you to do anything. I just want to make that clear. My goal is not to get you to change your vote. My goal is not to get you to become a Republican. My goal is not to get you to become a Democrat. My goal is not to get you to become anything other than what you want to be. I want you to do what's best for your family. And I think that's important because Biden's going to do what's best for his family. Am I right or am I right? Trump's going to do what's best for his family. He's doing that. That's why his children are all multimillionaires, right? Kamala's going to do what's best for her family. Right, Kamala, that's how Kamala got to be successful. She took care of Kamala, right? And so I just want you to take care of you. So that's what I'm laying out there as I kind of point out what I'm observing here. Here's the deal. One of the biggest problems you have as black voters is that it's a very simple game. Everybody pretty much guilt trips you into voting. They pretty much tell you that. Like I get all kinds of nasty messages from people that say, why are you telling black people not to vote? And I'm like, I've never, you show me one video anywhere at any time where I've ever, I've been talking for 25 years. Show me one time where I've ever told black people not to vote. I've never said don't vote. I've just said do what's best for yourself. So what I then do is I counter that question with a question. I say, okay, why are you so threatened when I tell black people to do what's best for themselves? Why are black people threatened when I tell black people to do what's best for yourself? Are you so accustomed to serving massa and doing things for white people that you can't even do what's best for you? Like, really, are you that caught up in making sure that you give your power away? That when I say, I don't even say, give the power to me. I'm not saying vote for me or vote for my guy, my candidate. I just say do what's best for yourself. So my point is I'm gonna ask you this, and don't tell me to get to the fucking point. I see you in there. If I'm not getting to the point fast enough, then that means you're not cut out for this conversation. All dumb motherfuckers need to leave the room now. If you're stupid, please go. I ain't got patience for dumb people. This is a platform for intelligent black people or those who want to be more intelligent. So if you're not in that category, then you should just go. Just go. Go do what they tell you to do. Max is calling you. I think I hear Joe Biden calling, yeehaw! Come on, Negroes! Come on, Negroes! So Joe Biden, your massa, Biden, Trump, whoever your massa is, your massa calling you. Go somewhere else. Go somewhere. There's plenty of coon spots all over the internet that you can go and you can coon out all day long. And seriously, you can go coon somewhere else, but don't come up in here with no cooning, because in this space, the goal is to find solutions. The goal is to understand. The goal is not, I'm sorry, don't get me wrong. I ain't got nothing against singing and dancing. That's fine. That's what black people do. Singing and dancing is fun and fine. But I'm going to just tell you like this, just point blank period. You do a lot of singing and a lot of dancing and not enough thinking. You do a lot of singing and a lot of dancing, but not enough thinking, not enough critical analysis. A whole lot of cooning, but ain't no strategizing. And then you turn around and you want to wonder why you're victimized all the time. Well, they keep doing stuff to us. They mean to us. They treat us bad. And it ain't right. Well, because when they was planning, you was singing. When they were plotting your demise, you was at the damn concert. That's why you lose. That's why you get gentrified out of your neighborhoods. That's why they always a step ahead of you. They ahead of your children. Your kids are reading on a third grade level when they're 14 years old because they spent a whole lot of time learning how to twerk from Cardi B. They know what a WAP is, but don't know nothing about math, don't know nothing about science, don't know nothing about starting a business. But they can tell you, they can recite every Cardi B lyric since the beginning of time. I'm not saying this is true of everybody, but this is true of far too many people, and that's why you fall behind. If you're not prepared, you will lose. It's like when I would go to school and we would have a test, and I didn't prepare for the test, I would get a bad grade. Right? I could feel sorry that I got a bad grade, or I could maybe listen to somebody when they said, prepare for the damn test. You need to study for the test. And they're always testing you, and you fail the test far too many times. So my point is very basic. So I watched Kamala, and I'm going to tell you this. I did a survey. I don't just talk out of the side of my neck. I actually do scientific analysis. I'm smarter than the white man. I know it's hard to believe a black man can be smarter than white people for some of y'all, but I'm smarter than 99.9% of all white people. I got my PhD over 20 years ago. And so I did a survey to find out what people were thinking. And so I asked, I said, I saw Kamala. She appeared on the Monica versus Brandy thing that everybody did. I'm not a big I know Monica's talented. I know Brandy's talented. That's not my thing. I ain't gonna lie. I'm more of a hip hop guy. I'm the guy that listens to the Ice Cube or whatever, right? So Monica, Brandy, that's fine. Alicia loves Monica and Brandy though, and I think that's cool. But I saw this image of Kamala pop up in the middle of their little verses thing. And I said, that's really interesting. So I was listening to her and she was like, you both have beautiful voices and we should all use our voice to vote. And I was like, that almost feels like a little bit of pandering. And with Kamala, she panders so poorly that it's like you feel like it's very fake. Like you just kind of you're like, wow, like this Indian lady, she's Jamaican, but her father has a real issue with her. I don't know if y'all saw the letter her father wrote. It was really bad. It made me really sad for her. And she's got this, this white husband, Doug. I guess Doug, maybe she met him at a HBCU or something. I don't know. And I just can't help but feel that Kamala is, because she's ambitious, she'll pretend to do and be anything in order to get the vote. That doesn't appeal to me. Now, if I was an AKA, she'd definitely have my vote, because a lot of politics is about a chase for power. It's a chase for power. Do you think it's a coincidence that the vast majority of presidents and vice presidents in this country are from Harvard or Yale? Do you think it's a coincidence that the vast majority, if not every single member of the Supreme Court, or a very large percentage of them, attend the same universities? Does anybody ever notice that? Did you ever notice how many Supreme Court justices attended Harvard or attended Yale? Do you ever think about that? And I mean, think about it. I mean, you mean University of Chicago doesn't have a great law school? Stanford doesn't have a great law school? There's not smart lawyers who come out of the University of Virginia? No, they tend to make sure that they protect their power. And if you want to understand how power is accumulated in this country, it's not accumulated by accident. It's not accumulated because people want to give it away and share it. It's not accumulated because people want to do the right thing. Power is accumulated because there are people that are strategizing on your ass. And the more backward and confused and easily, the more how easily you lose focus, the easier it is to get you to lose focus, the easier it is to distract you, the easier it is for people to extract your power from you. They distract you so they can extract what they want from you. And so I did a survey and I said, is anybody seeing what I'm seeing? And now on my platform, most of the people that follow me are smarter than the average bear. They're not, like the stupidity and the cooning, they tend to go to other places. They go to World Star or wherever the hell. And but I did a survey, and 81% of you that follow me on Twitter said that you felt that she was pandering. And I said, okay, so I'm not completely off base here. There is something going on here. And the thing was, I sat there and watched it. I get it, right? It's a big audience. Everybody's singing and dancing, and that's when the politicians show up, right? I want you to pay attention. I want you to watch when your favorite politicians tend to show up. They tend to show up when Black people are singing and dancing, but they don't tend to show up when Black people are thinking and strategizing, right? They're glad to talk. Joe Biden was real happy to talk to Cardi B, but when he talked to Charlemagne the God, who had actually taken the time to consult with political science experts on what Black people need, what happened? Joe Biden got pissed. He got pissed. Remember that? That's when he went off with that whole, like, if you don't vote for me, you ain't Black, right? And that's what he did. He went into that whole, if you ain't vote for me, then you ain't Black bullshit, right? That's because he was mad. He was as mad as any pimp would be if one of his hoes went to college. If a pimp, imagine a pimp, he got a good hoe. The hoe does what she's supposed to do. She goes out and she gets that bread. She don't be asking no questions. She's loyal beyond default. She'll do whatever he wants. And then one day somebody sneaks her off and takes her to a women's empowerment class where she learns that she shouldn't allow a man to exploit her in that way. So she comes back and she starts asking questions. And then she takes a little class on business and she comes back and says, well, I noticed that we collected $1,000 last night and you only gave me $40. Where's the other $960 at? Well, he's going to get frustrated. He's going to get mad. That's going to raise his blood pressure. He's going to reach back with the pimp hand and probably smack the hell out of her if he can, right? And that's what Joe Biden did. When Charlemagne the God was pushing Joe Biden, that threw him off because he's not used to his hoes getting out of line. He usually has his hoes in check. So when he saw this Black man, he's like, who is this Black entertainer guy? He don't know. Like, there's a reason Charlemagne and I are friends, because Charlemagne is not a stupid man. He's a little crazy, but he ain't stupid. He said, who is this entertainer guy who's asking me all these difficult questions? You're not supposed to challenge me, Negro. What is wrong with you? And that's when they jumped in, little guys like, excuse me, well, thank you. We were sorry. I really apologize. It's time to go. And then that's when Biden got pissed off and said, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't Black. That was his way of saying, what the hell is this? Like, use my bitch. You ain't supposed to be acting like this. So what happens after that? Well, after that, the Democrats, I'm sure, got together and had a strategic conversation, and they basically said, no more Charlemagne the God type interviews. We're going to carefully vet every interview that we do. So what they didn't do is they bring in Cardi B, who you have to really be thoughtful about this, right? Cardi B was brought up on charges a couple years ago. Cardi B is the same lady who got on Instagram and bragged about the fact that she used to drug men so she could rob them and get them raped, right? She said this in front of millions of people, right? So it's not inconceivable that she's trying to maintain a good relationship with the federal authorities so that she doesn't find her Black ass in jail. If Cardi B got too out of line and stopped rapping about WAP and started rapping about, instead of rapping about wet ass, you know what? She started rapping about, empowered ass politics. Like, if Cardi B really got real intellectual and real political, that's when you would probably hear about her coming up on charges. That's when you would see her really going to jail, like they were talking about sending her to jail a year ago. Go Google it. Cardi B I was reading it like, oh, she's going to jail. Wow, she really did some crazy stuff. So she does this interview with Biden, and you could tell all the questions were very scripted. Cardi B is known for being off script. She's known for being wild. She's known for telling it like it is, right? Cardi B sounded like motherfucking Barbara Bush up in that interview. She sounded like she went straight Michelle Obama in that interview. There was nothing off script that Cardi said. I followed the pattern of the questioning, and I was like, okay, I bet the next issue is going to be something on women's issues. The next issue is going to be something on race. You got to throw Black stuff in there, but it's only police shootings. Like, you can only address race in a very narrow context of police shootings. You can't talk about if Cardi B has said the word reparations, I promise you, If Cardi B had said the word reparations, that interview would have ended quickly and Cardi would be out of the loop. She might be on her way to jail. Like, that's how significantly serious they are about ensuring that they will never have a serious conversation with the Black community. Now, somebody said, bruh, are you disrespecting Michelle Obama? Let's talk about Michelle Obama. That's a great question. So Michelle Obama, again, in alignment with the whole discussion on race, everybody's trying to get woke now real fast or pretend to be woke so that they can fit in because they see the world is kind of waking up. They're all getting a little too Boyce Watkins-ish right now. Like the stuff that I was talking about 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, they're now talking about it, which is fine. And so they're trying to sort of participate in the conversation without getting into trouble. So Michelle comes out and she tells a story. And I know, see, when you get to my stage, you kind of just know too much. You kind of see the patterns, right? So I saw the pattern. I said, okay, she's going to tell a story about race, but it won't be something that's heavily offensive to white people. It won't be something that's overly real, but it's something that maybe a bougie Black person or an unthoughtful person is going to appreciate. So she told a story. No disrespect to Michelle. I think Michelle's smart at this. I think even Michelle knows like what it is, right? I think that's why Michelle was so frustrated in the White House, is because I see something more in Michelle. I see a Black woman who was a whole lot Blacker than she is right now. But now she's playing a game. Now she's got to play the multimillionaire Martha's Vineyard, my husband got out of the White House and could easily be indicted game. She's got to play that game, right? So she tells a story about how she took her girls out for ice cream and a white woman cut in line with her. And the conclusion was that white Americans should acknowledge Black African Americans or something like that. That basically you all should like us. And I appreciate that discussion. And obviously there's no desire to be insulting toward Michelle Obama, because I'm sure she's a nice person. But at the same time, I don't want to insult Black people, or especially not intelligent Black people who care about their community, by pretending like that was anything authentic and real, that was actually really going to make any true significant progress in the community. White people liking you is not going to improve your community. Like white people saying that Black people are okay with us, that's not going to do a goddamn thing for any of you at all. I just want to make sure that's 100% clear. Like that's what they call symbolism. And earlier today, we talked about the difference we talked about the first S and the other 3 S's. You got symbolism, but then you've got substantive, systematic solutions to serious problems. So maybe that's 4 S's, right? So substantive, systemic solutions that are serious. So that's what I want the last 4 S's. I don't want the first S. We get enough of the first S. We get enough symbolism. I want substantive, something that's real, right? A real conversation. You're sitting down, if Joe Biden sits down with Dr. Claude Anderson and they really hash out issues in the Black community, that will be a substantive conversation. Systemic solutions means that instead of giving this symbolic thing that says, look at us, we got this Black person that's out here, how about something systemic that says we're putting $100 billion into Black-owned businesses and Black-owned schools so that the Black community can get its own Marshall Plan? Or we're going to pursue reparations vigorously. That's going to be the top agenda item for those first 100 days. Why are politicians afraid of the word reparations? That's the question I ask. And the challenge can be obviously thrown to the right or the left. The reason I talk more about the Democrats is because the Democrats are the ones asking for your vote. Anybody who thinks that you should equally critique the Republicans and the Democrats don't understand. It's the criticisms of the Republicans that shield the Democrats from accountability. The more you criticize the Republicans, the more you're saying to the Democrats, we love you because you're not a Republican, right? The more I compare you to something worse, the better your bullshit is going to taste to me, because I've concluded that I must eat either bullshit or really nasty bullshit, right? I have no choice to eat something good. So ultimately, at the end of the day, the critique of the Republicans is going to happen naturally, because that's all they did through the entire Democratic National Convention. Shout out to my man Ice Cube, because Ice Cube pointed this out. He pointed this out to 30 million people on Instagram, which I thought was great. Ice Cube said, you spent the whole damn convention complaining about Trump, but you didn't spend 1 second talking about the contract with Black America. And any Black person who thinks that that's okay, I want you to really process a little bit and listen to what you're saying. Are you really saying that your fear of something that you just survived 4 years of Trump, right? So your fear of another 4 years is so great that you're willing to completely throw in the towel and concede this idea that you know and I know that Black people deserve a better deal. It reminds me of when of when I had a conversation with my dean at Syracuse. When I was at Syracuse University, and I was fighting with the administration because the administration, I said, you guys have a racism problem. You haven't promoted a black person in 100 years. Like, and you have departments that have never in 100 years of existence promoted a black person. How the fuck am I supposed to think this is fair? The KKK couldn't have a worse hiring record than you guys have. What is this shit? And I was talking to the black dean who was trying to shut me down. He was the Negro they sent to calm me down. And I said, come on, man, you're an intelligent black man. I know there's a black man underneath that big belly of yours. There's a black man underneath your skin. Bring him out and let me talk to him. I need to talk to the real man inside of you because this fake funky Negro in front of me is lying to me and he's full of shit. This is insanity. This is absolute insanity. But that's what racism does. Racism makes you crazy. Racism makes you take that which is unacceptable and you find a way to make it acceptable. You've been doing that since slavery. They will give you a big bowl of pig guts and you will find a way to make that into some food. And then you get used to eating the pig guts so that when somebody says, you know, you shouldn't be eating pig guts, you will fight them all day to protect your motherfucking chitlins. We got Negroes out here that will eat raw chitlins and get mad that somebody done took their plate away and literally will get pissed when somebody says we should be eating healthier food. How in the world can you get mad at somebody who wants what's best for you? Like that's the part I just am confused by. I'm utterly confused by this. So I want to read, Marcus Brooks says, you want us to vote for Donald Trump, nigga? It's not going to happen no matter what. And that, again, I pulled up your comment, Mr. Brooks, because that's exactly the type of thinking that I'm referring to. This is no disrespect to Marcus. I forgive him for he knows not what he does. When you make a statement like that, like when you say that a black person who doesn't vote for the Democrats is actually voting for the Republicans, you're basically saying that you're confirming what Joe Biden said. You're basically saying that black people are owned by white people. You're basically saying that my vote belongs to Joe Biden because by me not giving him a vote, I'm taking something away from him, right? Like a woman, like telling a woman, like, if you don't have sex with me, you're taking something from me. No, she never gave it to you in the first place. That's not your vagina. That's her vagina. She has the right to choose at the end of the day where she's going to sleep with. So at the end of the day, the Democrats are a lot like the guy who thinks he owns a woman's vagina. Like, so really, when I tell you guys, when I tell you 10,000 times for the Negroes that don't listen, or for the people that hear what they want to hear. And I've been saying it 50,000 times a year for the last 20 years. When I say I'm not voting for Democrats and you assume that that means I'm supporting the Republicans, you need to think about what you just said. You need to process, because there's no point where I say, like if I say I'm not voting for the Republicans, I don't have Republicans all in my inbox saying, what's wrong with you, nigga? Nigga, you crazy, nigga? You, what you doing? You voting, you support, you putting Biden in office, nigga? You hurting Trump, nigga? I don't get that. I don't hear, there's not one, if I say I'm not voting for Trump, which I'm not, I do not get one email from any Republican anywhere. I got Republican friends and I got Democrat friends. I don't have one. I've never had a Republican come up to me and say, well, you know, if you don't vote for Trump, that's a vote for Biden. They don't say that. They don't say that. Right? Now, this is not a pro-Republican statement. This is just me pointing out the contrast. When somebody comes up and gets mad at you for doing what's best for you, that is the language of ownership. That is the language of a person who thinks that they own you. That is white entitlement. That is entitlement. Entitlement is when you, by simply being free, you upset me because you're taking something away from me. That's really the foundation of a lot of white supremacy. That's why so many white folks get mad when black athletes say, when LeBron and the guys say, look, we don't want to play basketball because we want to fix this racial injustice issue. And then people get mad. Like that Cleveland Cavaliers owner wrote that big long letter. You dirty, blah, 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 you, blah, blah, you suck. I hate you. You need, so think about this, right? So remember that? Anybody remember when that Cleveland Cavaliers owner wrote that like runaway slave letter to LeBron because he was pissed that LeBron exercised his right to go to Miami and he got pissed like he literally wrote that letter like he sounded like somebody whose slaves had been stolen. He was like, how dare you? Like it didn't even cross his mind to say thank you for donating several years of your career to Cleveland when you could have played anywhere? You could have been in a big market. You could have been playing for the Lakers and Showtime. You could have been in New York playing in the Garden. But you played in Cleveland because you love Cleveland so much and damn near took us to a championship by yourself, which he eventually delivered for the city of Cleveland because he loved Cleveland that much. He didn't take a second to thank LeBron for what he'd given to the city. He just started the letter by saying, "You dirty son of a bitch, you took something away from me because blah, blah, blah." That's the language of ownership. So I translate that to the way the Democratic Party looks at me as a black man, right? Rather than saying, thank you, boys, for the fact that you tried so hard. Thank you for the fact that you were deeply committed to the Democratic Party for many years. I remember, I'm old enough to remember when Bill Clinton was elected and all this other stuff and how excited we were. We really thought, yeah, change is going to come. And now, mind you, him and Biden are locking Negroes up by the thousands, right? I'm a young black man. I'm in my 20s. I watched Tupac die. My best friend gets shot in the head. My homeboy gets sent to prison. My family members getting locked up. And I'm sitting there thinking I'm getting liberated, right? I'm sitting there thinking like we're making progress when really we're going backward, right? I tried all that, right? So rather than saying thank you, boys, for trying and thank you for giving us your vote, which you didn't have to give us, first thing I get when I say, I think I'm going to try something different. I think I'm going to take care of me this time. I'm not really trying to take care of you first. First thing I get is vitriol. I get, what's wrong with you? You're putting Trump in office. You're hurting the chance to get it. I'm not hurting nothing. I'm just not participating. And in fact, if I really wanted to be a dick, if I wanted to be an asshole, I would be on here telling you guys to do what I do. I would be saying, we all as a block, we need to lock up the black vote. We need to get the votes together and just hold them for ransom, right? Diddy said that. Remember when Diddy said that? Diddy, I don't know what Diddy's position is, but remember Diddy said he's going to hold the black vote for ransom? I would never do that because I believe you deserve freedom. I believe you deserve to be happy. I believe that nobody owns your vote, not even me. Like, who the hell am I to come and tell you what to do, what's best for your family? That's not my job. My job is to basically, hopefully, if I can help with this, elevate your thinking so you can understand the game for what it is so you can make the best decision that works for you. So some of y'all in here might be, my sister's an AKA. My sister's like, I want to see an AKA in the White House. I'm like, okay, I respect that. So cool. If I was ski-weeing and wearing pink and green, I might go vote for Kamala too. I don't know. Or maybe if one of y'all who watches the podcast was Sandra Bland used to be a supporter of the platform. I didn't know we were Facebook friends. She lived maybe a couple towns over from me. When I found out Sandra was part of our tribe, I was very happy that Sandra Bland's story was being elevated to the world. That made me happy because she was one of us. And that's natural, right? That's what the world does. People take care of themselves. That's why you have so many Supreme Court justices that went to Harvard and Yale, because Harvard and Yale, they go behind closed doors and they lobby for their person. They don't lobby for them because their values are aligned in a certain way. No, they're like, no, that's a Harvard guy. I'm a Harvard guy. I want to see a Harvard guy in the White House so I can make a phone call and get some things done, right? So I don't really, and that's where I would end up stopping in terms of saying, if a Kamala Harris is elected, can rank and file black people pick up the phone, make a phone call, and really get things done? Can we get $10 million in funding for the Harvest Institute run by Dr. Claude Anderson if Kamala Harris is in office? Is she going to make sure that those individuals who are truly going on the front lines for black people are going to be taken care of first? I don't feel that way. So at the end of the day, it's not anywhere in my self-interest to support what I'm seeing. Now, if they could change that overnight. Here's how they could change that. They could change it overnight by simply saying one important word and going and really meaning it and showing sincerity. Reparations. Just talk about reparations. Like, I think and we talk about some other issues. There's a lot of other issues like the mass incarceration mess that Biden and Clinton created. The black businesses not being supported and funded, black-owned schools that are starving for money, things like that. But just talking about reparations and being serious about it, having serious conversations with serious people, that right there could probably change the minds of a lot of people. And I'm just really curious as to why they're so afraid of the word reparations. Because she shows up in the scenarios where black people are not serious. Notice, when you're in a place where you're not serious, they're always there. But when you're in a place where you're asking serious questions, they don't want nothing to do with you. That's no different from a guy who shows up for the ass, but don't show up when you're sick in the hospital. And ladies, you know what I'm talking about. The guy who will show up for the sex, but when it comes time to really do something serious, got to pick the kids up from school, he ain't nowhere to be found. And a smart woman picks the guy who's going to help her get things done, help her take care of the kids, help her when she's really in need, will help her when she's not giving him sex, right? But the silly girl is the one who will let a guy show up who ain't called her in 3 weeks and gave her no time, no attention, no respect, and he shows up with a six pack and some Doritos at 1 o'clock in the morning, and she lets him in the front door. That is the woman that doesn't have her self-esteem right. That's a woman who doesn't understand that she's worthy of love and hasn't accepted that, who maybe is just happy to get whatever she can get. That's a thirsty, desperate move. And I believe that black people are thirsty and desperate for attention and affection in America. I believe that racism has impacted our self-esteem. It's made us truly hate ourselves, and it's made us wonder, why would anybody love us, right? And because of that, because we love white folks so much, and because we look up to them so much, they're almost like our parents. Their approval means everything to us. Like when they spray painted, anybody notice that when they spray painted Black Lives Matter on the street, how proud some black people got? Like some black people were so proud. I did not give a damn. I did not care. I mean, it meant nothing to me. I'm like, wow, y'all just messed up the damn street. Now you're going to have to go paint, clear it off. Like that didn't mean anything to me. And so I just personally think that you got to kind of get your priorities straight. Okay. So anyway, let me see here. Okay. Dr. Boyce and Professor Griff, 2024 presidential ticket. I don't know Griff. I've never had one conversation with the man, but I respect him. I'm not running for nothing. Let me see. I can't support this government. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that there's obviously clear problems with the Trump administration, right? I mean, Trump is Trump, right? I followed Trump for 30 years, so I know his limitations, but I also am not a guy that sort of looks at the Biden administration as something that's going to make things wonderful. Honestly, if you had, say, another Obama administration, I could almost appreciate that, because I must give Barack credit for the fact that he did carry himself in a way that was intelligent and disciplined. And I respect that. I just wish he had a little more courage. I felt like he lacked that balls to the wall courage that black people need. So when you're really trying to deal with a deeply ingrained 400-year system of oppression, you need somebody that's going to go hard in that bitch. Like, you need somebody that's really going to go, really push the envelope, break some rules, etc. So if you took a guy with Barack Obama's discipline, would say, the courage of Trump. I mean, Trump, you may not like him, but the guy says what's on his mind. He's not scared to ruffle feathers. I like when I see a person that's not scared to ruffle feathers. I just don't like it when it's him. But I wish there was a black candidate who had that kind of mindset. Unfortunately, a person like that isn't going to get elected in a racist country. But you have leaders like that. You have smart people who will go hard for you, but they're not going to get approval from white folks. You can't have a revolution and get approval from your oppressor. It does not work that way. So who do you have out there? Well, you've got some great people. First of all, Dr. Claude Anderson is a guy that has done far more for black people than any of these politicians ever will or ever would. He's been fighting a reparations lawsuit for 30 years with his own money. Right? Imagine how much he could have fought if we actually supported him financially. You've got some other people out here that are smart and strong and intelligent. And I would say let's elevate some of those people instead of looking to politicians. Politicians are just generally speaking, politicians are kind of nasty, like just because it's a nasty space. It's not that they start off as nasty people. They just realize, okay, if I either want to be a good person or I want to get elected. So they become liars and they become, chameleons, and they have to fit in whatever. So to some extent, your shitty politicians are a reflection of a really shitty society. They're a reflection of the fact that we as a society don't like truth. We don't like truth. We don't typically like intellect. We like things that make us feel good. We like people that tell us what we want to hear. And that's one of the reasons why I think your society is failing. In case you're wondering, yes, America is failing. America is going to struggle. Elevate your thinking, says Miss Chris. I agree. So yeah, like I said earlier, I did the survey. And the survey said that 81% of you felt that Kamala was pandering during the Monica versus Brandy thing. And so you were on the same page with me. I kind of feel like there should be spaces also where you just kind of say, you know what, we'll do politics somewhere else. I think maybe that would be a fair rule to just say, don't be bringing your politicians to church. Don't bring your politicians to the concert. Don't bring them to the barbecue and whatever. Bring them to the symposium. Bring them to the spaces where they're going to have to actually answer tough questions from intellects, right? One of the interesting things is that you have a fake elite class of black people that were selected by white supremacy. They were selected by white folks, and these become your so-called leaders, right? So, for example, a lot of your entertainers, your athletes, and your politicians, they wouldn't be anything if white people had not selected them. White people had to pick them. If white people hated Barack Obama, he would be a nobody, or he'd be in jail, or he'd be still struggling to pay for a rental car like he was 15, 20 years ago, right? If white folks didn't, support, I don't know, you got your athletes, right? That make a lot of money. They put them on TV, and then they become your heroes because you see them on TV. And it's not really so much their fault. Like they just, if you're a rapper, you're just a rapper, right? If you're an athlete, you're just an athlete. A politician, you're just a politician. You go over to other entertainers like rappers. Like look at Cardi B. Cardi B is not a reflection of the black community. If black people voted on who the top rappers would be, Cardi would probably not even be in the top 30. It doesn't mean that she's not talented in her own way. I'm sure, like she can swallow a baseball bat or half of it or whatever, or whatever, do the splits while she's drinking a beer, right? Like she can do a lot of really interesting things, so she would have her audience, but I don't think that's who black people would pick, right? So most of these people, the black people that you end up looking up to, the ones that they speak to, are the ones that aren't selected by you, but they are the ones who have a deep amount of influence over you because you two are a white supremacist. You are a white supremacist because the black person that gets validated by your oppressor is the one that you admire. You'll admire somebody because they wrote a famous book, even if you never read the book. You'll admire somebody because they can sing really well, even if they engage in debaucherous behavior. We had that big problem when R. Kelly first got busted almost 20 years ago, when that first video came out about 2003, 2004, I remember screaming and hollering, like, why would you support a guy who would rape your daughter in a second? Like, I don't get that. And I remember a lot of people gave him a pass because he could sing. Like he could sing and he had money, and that obviously made him successful. So that is a reflection of just not knowing who you are, right? So because you don't know who you are, you look for them to tell you who you are. They tell you who you are in the school system. Either like, for example, when I was a kid, they told me I was not as smart as the other kids. They told me that I was the bad kid. So I identified that. I internalized that because I didn't know about what kind of potential I might have. I had to literally buck the system and redefine myself once I figured out like that most of what they were giving me was nonsense. So at the end of the day, I think that's why you follow these people who really aren't good leaders. Entertainers are not leaders. Entertainers, a sister put that on a t-shirt, and I said, that's a great t-shirt. Entertainers are not black leaders. Entertainers are just entertainers, and that's all that they are. Their opinions, they have the right to them, but they're not the opinions that should shape what your opinion should be. Your opinion should be based on what you believe as a human being, as a black person, whatever, right? So let me see here. I want to make money, not have our money taken by healthcare scams. Okay. The problem is that once black people who get into office, they don't utilize it. Yeah, well, that's because a lot of politics is run by money. And so that's why the powernomics philosophy is so important, because if you get the money, then you can really have a say in your politicians and in terms of what they do. But they know they need black votes. So what happens is that those who truly have the power, who truly have the money, they give money to the politicians so they can market to black people. So they need your vote, but they don't actually want you to have power for your vote. So basically they need you to fill up their car with gas so they can drive it to go see somebody else, right? They're not going to use that car to give you a ride. They're not going to come visit you in that car, but they need you to put gas in the car so they can go from point A to point B. That's what happens. How do you think politicians get a lot of votes? Well, they get a bunch of money, right? They raise all this money. Well, who do they raise it from? Are they raising it from you? No, they raise it from the millionaires and the billionaires. And then what do they do with that money? They spend it on advertising so they can control you. So then what they do is they go to starving black media outlets and entertainers that just want to fit in or just want to be liked or have access to the White House or whatever. And they'll use those entertainers and those media outlets to market extensively to black people so that black people will show up and give the vote away for nothing. And so I personally think that the process is fine in the sense of how they do whatever they're going to do. I just think at the end of the day, vote for who you want. Just have them do something for you in exchange. Why is that so radical for me to say, I think black people should get something for their vote? I think that if you go to work 40 hours a week, they should give you your paycheck. Think, well, why is that a radical concept? Why is that radical? I mean, people think they just think I'm crazy. Like I got friends that don't talk to me no more or whatever, right? Like why is that a crazy idea? The reason it's a crazy idea is because you're so used to accepting nothing. The reason it's a crazy idea for me to say we should have quid pro quo, something for something, it's a crazy idea because they're used to the black vote being free. So if a man's going to see a woman and he's used to getting what he wants for free for nothing, then yeah, he's gonna freak out when she says, I think you need to do something to earn whatever it is that you're coming over here to get every Friday night, right? If you come see me, it's gonna have to be an equal exchange. I need to get something out of the deal because I don't really feel like this is a fair exchange, right? And so I just want you to just respect yourself, man. Like that's it. I don't really understand why that's such a terrible radical message. It's really not. Let me see here. I'm looking at some of your comments. Willie Harris says, Kamala says she doesn't believe in reparations for blacks. Yeah, she got herself in trouble on the griot. And I want to give a shout out to the interviewer on the griot who interviewed Kamala, who asked her that question and pressed her on that issue. I thought that was wonderful. I don't know who the young lady's name was who did the interview, but I love the fact that she challenged Kamala. When Kamala came in there and was like, well, it's not like I'm going to do nothing for black people, that the lady really pushed her. She was like, what do you mean? What do you have specifically for? And then I think she named something. She named one of her white liberal policies and was like, well, black people are going to benefit from this. And she said, yeah, but what are you specifically going to do for black people? Because remember, racism and slavery was specific. They didn't put all poor people in slavery. They didn't grab like half the white people and throw them in slavery too. They grabbed your black ass. Like black people were specific. I can open up Black Labor, White Wealth. And in this book written by Dr. Claude Anderson, one of the black people who loves you, I hope that you love him back. He literally specifically wrote, here we go. Here's a chapter. Why whites chose to enslave blacks. Why whites chose to specifically enslave blacks. Let's see what he says here. The impact of black enslavement clearly remains visible in the protracted living conditions in black communities across the nation. Since black enslavement was such a unique experience, black Americans need to thoroughly understand why they were chosen to serve as slaves. By clearly understanding the strategies and decisions whites and others used to conquer them and use them as fodder for domestic and global economies, blacks will be better able to prevent such abuse from ever occurring again. In addition, blacks will be able to better articulate why white America should never again minimize the impact of black enslavement and Jim Crowism and never again equate other so-called minority grievances with the afflictions that it has heaped upon blacks. The practice of human enslavement is a phenomenon of mankind that goes back to prehistoric times. However, the enslavement of black people in America has been totally unique in its role, scope, and consequences that historians, politicians, and social scientists have referred to American slavery as a peculiar institution. These observers of human behavior consider black enslavement peculiar because it defied all accepted religious precepts and secular standards of normative behavior. It did not comply with traditional justifications for human enslavement. Moreover, black slavery did not end in the traditional manner. The white slaveholders did not voluntarily free blacks, nor did the slaves successfully rise up in revolt to free themselves. It took a 4-year civil war costing nearly 500,000 lives, with whites fighting against other whites, and still the Southern whites' economic and psychological dependence on black people could not be totally broken. No other human enslavement has engendered such intense emotional attachments, conflicts, hatreds, and wealth for as many nations as did black enslavement. The uniqueness of black slavery. America's enslavement of blacks was unique. This is unique. This is why Kamala, are you listening, Kamala? Kamala, hey girl, are you listening? Kamala, I need you to hear this. So next time you get tempted to spit some bullshit like I can't do nothing specifically for black people, I need you to read Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Black Labor, White Wealth. He'll educate you on why a specific problem needs a specific solution. They didn't generally enslave black people. They didn't just grab a handful of people to enslave that happened to be black. They specifically grabbed us. This is specifically why they specifically chose to enslave us. The sheer number of people enslaved was this is why black American slavery, these are some characteristics of American slavery. The sheer number of people enslaved was unprecedented. An estimated 15 to 60 million blacks were captured in Africa for enslavement. More than 35 million died en route to various ports. 35 million died. So you're telling me about 180,000 died from corona? That's terrible. But 35 million black people died during the Middle Passage before they even got here, with approximately 15 million actually reaching the slave markets. The incompleteness of records makes it impossible to give an exact number, but Robert Kozinski, a leading authority, estimated that 15 million were shipped. Hundreds of millions of the originally enslaved Africans' offspring served as slaves, blah, blah, blah. The racist enslavement of blacks was introduced into the world at the time that individual freedom for whites was blooming. Serfdom and servitude were disappearing in Europe. The Catholic and Protestant religions were undergoing reform and increased liberalization, and secular philosophies were embroiled in the intricacies of liberty, freedom, and equality of mankind. Black slavery was purely and simple racial and economic exploitation that caused economic revolutions and entrenched disparities between blacks and whites. Economically poor, non-industrialized nations of Europe, like Spain, Portugal, Germany, and England, commercialized human exploitation and suffering for the primary purpose of looting gold, silver, and precious commodities in Africa and the New World. This is not going to be solved by getting white people to like you. This is not getting solved by getting all white people to scream Black Lives Matter. This is not getting solved by drawing attention to the issue. This is being solved by cutting the check. You must cut the check. Enslaved blacks were integrated or scattered throughout the world as a minority group. Slaveholding nations outside the African continent maintained a majority white population or power structure that kept the society's racial balance weighted against blacks. So most countries around the world, including the United States, used immigration as a tool to make sure that they did not have too many black people in their country. So America is not the only country that watered down your vote. A lot of countries did this. There was a religious crusade for black enslavement. He talks about the Muslims, the Jews, the Catholics, all these religious groups that were the Protestants and the Baptists. I mean, it's fascinating because the thing about it is that it was almost like all the white people in the world got together and just decided they were just going to kind of gang up on you. And so he talks about why Indians were not enslaved. Since a favorite device for minimizing slavery and its impact on blacks is to counter with that Indians were treated even worse, you've heard people talk about Indians and Native Americans, it is important that a comparison be made of the differences or similarities in the treatments of blacks and Indians by the dominant white society. Historical and contemporary facts show that blacks were treated differently and worse in most respects. As examples, during the 2.5-year centuries that blacks were enslaved and being worked to death, Indians were free to move about and resettle. They carried weapons and defended themselves. The government established Indian bureaus that built and financed a national system of tuition-free schools that required that Indian children attend. The bureaus provided them with food, clothing, housing, and farming tools. They were given millions of acres of land upon which they could construct homes, farms, or businesses and never pay any form of taxes. This is kind of what a reparations plan would look like. They were never stripped of their culture, religion, or sense of history. They were free to marry someone from any race or ethnic group. Many states, such as South Carolina and North Carolina, encourage marriages between white males and Indian women. Okay, we don't need that part. Y'all can keep that. Unlike American Indians, blacks had few, if any, options. As slaves, blacks' freedom and liberty were taken from them. They were confined by laws and chains. They could not carry weapons and were the primary target of hostile Indians. There has never been a government agency established solely to provide assistance to them. It was unlawful to teach a black to read or write, even nearly a century after Indians were attending free schools. When schools were finally built, they were separate and unequal. Blacks were forced to finance their own schools and pay tuition to non-black schools. They were denied the right to acquire free land or to this day purchase land in certain areas. Blacks had received no reparations for their centuries of personal physical abuse or stolen labor. They sought 40 acres and a mule, but received neither. They were released from centuries of servitude, penniless, naked, ignorant, hungry, and landless. They were legally defined by quantities of blood, and every state enacted laws that forbade blacks to marry and commit sexual unions across racial lines. It was a capital offense for a black man to approach a white woman. Blacks were separated from their culture, history, religion, and family. Lastly, blacks continue to bear the scars and legacies of their inhumane and unique experience in American society. Still, the great difference in the treatment of blacks and Indians does not answer the question, quote, why were blacks selected for slavery over, let me pull this up, hold on, over the American Indian. Both blacks and Indians had a darker skin color than the white Europeans, and both practiced non-institutionalized forms of religion, lacked firearms, and were accessible for enslavement. The same factors that dissuaded Europeans from enslaving Indians in Latin and Central America also dissuaded European settlers from enslaving Indian populations in North America. Settlers being on Native Americans' land were at a significant strategic disadvantage. The American Indians were fierce warriors whose behavior the white man could not predict, and they rightly feared retribution from free tribesmen. Moreover, from an economic standpoint, enslaving American Indians was not a good investment. A runaway Indian slave could skillfully and safely blend into the wilderness. As with the white indentured servant, the strong disadvantages made Indians unsuitable for slavery. Although Indians were conquered, the white conqueror had a certain degree of respect for Indian culture. A basic principle of American Indian culture was a willingness to fight and die rather than be enslaved. So they saw slavery as a choice. They did. I'm just going to tell you, this is not me agreeing with Kanye's statement, but I'm just telling y'all, for real, for everybody who thinks that you have no option to do anything other than to be afraid, just know that they saw it as a choice. Okay. They said either I will be free or I will die. I will be free or I will die. Now I want you to stay right there. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to give you the Negro contrast, the Negro equivalent of that statement. Their statement was freedom or death. I will be free or I will die, right? So stay right there. Here's what black people say instead. What black people say is we run around and we say things like this: vote or die, right? So this is what we say. So they say be free or die. We say vote or die. Right? Because we've been taught to believe that that's our best option. That's the only thing we can do. That's our chance to have our freedom. That's our chance to have our opportunity. And if you go back and you watch Kamala Harris on Monica and Brandy's Verzuz competition tonight, one of the things that one of the singers was saying, I don't remember if it was Monica or Brandy. God bless them both. This is not hating on neither one of them. But check this out. I heard one of them say, yeah, y'all got to use your voice. You got to use your voice and vote because that's going to help your community. Our community is really struggling. And the only way we can help ourselves is if we vote. Right. So basically she's saying vote or die. Right. Like you're struggling. Voting is your only solution. That's your only hope. That's your only possibility. Right. But there are other cultures that say, no, actually, freedom is our only possibility. Freedom is our only hope. Freedom is the thing that we're fighting for. So when we have these disagreements, and I see people that say, Doc, I used to rock with you, man, but I can't stand you now. And I'm sorry it has to get to that point. But let me explain what's really going on here. We're having a debate over the ultimate solution for black people. You believe the best option is voting, and I believe the best option is freedom. Right? I'm just saying, I believe in holding out for a better deal. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just telling you that I ride for the people who want to hold out for a better deal. Those are my people. Doesn't mean I don't love you if you do something different. It just means that you do have an option. But we got offended when Kanye, remember when Kanye said, well, that slavery was a choice, right? It was a rough way to say it, and Kanye's a little bit touched. We know that. But I thought about it. I said, well, if you saw Oprah's character in Beloved, remember that movie Beloved? No, we went to go see Beloved, and Oprah was there. Me and Alicia went to see Beloved, and there was that part where she had those babies, and she thought about having babies that had to live in slavery, and she said, "My babies will not be slaves because I'm going to make sure I have a choice, even if I have to create a choice." Right? It doesn't mean you have a good choice. It just means you do. You could argue that you do have a choice. So let me keep reading. So out of respect for Native Americans, many whites learned the American Indian language and cultures. There was considerable cross-cultural contact with white settlers, often boasting of being blood brothers or having Indian blood in their veins. Now I think Kamala Harris is part Indian, but not Native American Indian. I think from India, if I'm not mistaken. Is what? East Indian? Okay, okay. Let's see. So let me see. Oh, the white settlers had no such respect for African culture. Now the point we're making here is that Kamala and her friends should consider that black people need a specific solution because we were attacked for 400 years with a very specific agenda. There was a very specific attack agenda, right? So a specific problem requires a specific solution. Like coronavirus is a very specific virus. It's a very specific illness. You can't say, well, we're going to cure coronavirus by giving everybody some aspirin. You can't give a general solution to a specific problem. If you give a general solution to a specific problem, then you are not trying to really solve the problem. So he says that whites have no such respect for African culture, languages, or religions. He talks about some of the different ways. Let me see. He says in Table 3 that blacks were enslaved for some. Let me look. I'm looking at the table here. He says not all blacks were submissive, but for those bold enough to bolt from the plantations, their dark skin color was a highly visible target in a rural or urban setting, making it nearly impossible for an escapee to hide. That's another reason they specifically chose blacks. Most blacks who did escape successfully were unfamiliar with the surrounding wilderness and consequently had to seek shelter in an urban environment in the northern states or Canada. So that's another specific reason that blacks were good slaves. Federal and state governments enacted fugitive slave laws that required white citizens, bounty hunters, and Indians to recapture black slaves for rewards. So I'm not saying that Native Americans can't be our friends. I'm saying that they weren't always our friends, and you can't assume that we were in the same struggle because there were a lot of Indians who made a lot of money capturing black people and scalping them, just to make sure you know your history, because I'm sure that white lady that taught your history class in elementary school did not mention that in class. So let's see here. So when you talk about, so he lays out rankings in terms of skin color and how oppression works. And I just encourage you to take a look at this book. I'm not going to keep reading, but the point of the matter is this. Look, whenever a politician says, I can't do anything specifically for black people, they're pretty much saying all lives matter. That's pretty much the modern equivalent of saying all lives matter. When you say I can't do anything specifically for black people, I'm gonna do something for everybody, you're saying the rising tide will lift all boats, and you're saying that all lives matter, right? So if you're a person who believes that, then then that's fine. I'm not even gonna fight you. I'm not mad at you. I still love you. You can do what you want to do. But if you're looking to go deeper and really understand what's going on and really trying to solve the problem and not just pretend to solve the problem, I encourage you to read books like this. This is called Black Labor, White Wealth. It is by Dr. Claude Anderson. He has copies of his book at powernomics.com. That's powernomics.com. If the Andersons run out of books, I want you to go buy it from them. But if they sell out and don't have any copies, I think we've got a few copies in my bookstore. You can go to drboycebooks.com, drboycebooks.com. I have books there. Dr. Anderson's books are there. But I want you to read his books before you read mine. He's the OG. He's the president of the United States as far as I'm concerned, because I want a leader I can trust. I want a leader that really has my best interest at heart. I want a leader who's going to go hard for us and go hard for his people. I don't want a leader who doesn't even act like we exist, except for when it's time to vote. I'm a little bit concerned and perhaps even deeply offended that the number one issue that they talk about the most when they talk about things they're doing for black people, first thing they say is, we gave you voter rights. We gave you the right to vote. Seriously, like that's literally the main thing that they will speak to you, will say to you over and over and over again. And that's like me telling my wife, well, you know, babe, I love you because I bought you a mop so you can mop the kitchen. I got you a really good vacuum cleaner so you can clean the vacuum. I got you a good washer and dryer so you can wash my dirty drawers. That's how I show I love you. That ain't love. That's me saying I only care about you if you're doing something for me. When you're doing something for yourself, then fuck you. Right. And it baffles me and it saddens me that we really think that the Democrats fighting for our voting rights really is them doing the best that they can for us. And it baffles me also when we don't understand that the reason they want everybody to show up and vote is because they know that voter suppression is going to be in full effect. Voter suppression means that they're going to get you to the polls so that they can suppress your vote and get you to vote with them. That they know that there's going to be enough peer pressure from other people that's going to make you feel bad for doing what's best for yourself, doing what's best for your family. They limit your options, and then they pressure you into taking the option they want you to take. So they don't have to say vote for us. They just say, well, make sure you vote. Well, what if every black person at a protest just said, okay, we're all going to show up and vote, just like you say. You say you want us to vote? Okay, well, we're all going to show up. We're going to vote for the other guy. How about that? Or we're all going to vote independent. So what if I did that? Now, I want you to think about this. What do you think? Answer me in the chat. What do you think would happen if I ran a campaign? Because I told you guys I'm not into campaigning, but I'm thinking about changing my mind. What if I ran a campaign that said, okay, every black person needs to vote? And I bring on celebrities or whatever, and we're all like, yeah, y'all need to rock the vote, y'all. And then what if I jumped in and said, oh, by the way, everybody vote independent. Everybody vote for a third party candidate. Don't vote for a Democrat or Republican. Vote for a third party candidate. Do you think that they'd be happy with that? Give me a yes or no in the chat. Do you think that they would say, thank you, Dr. Boyce, for getting black people out to vote? Do you think they'd be happy for you? Do you think that they'd be glad that black people are exercising their power and that the black community is going to benefit from realizing this political power? Or do you think that they would be pissed? They would be pissed. They'd be like, Dr. Boyce, what are you doing? Like, oh, you're like a Republican. You're like a Trump supporter, right? Like I get called a Trump supporter all the time, which I think is hilarious. I'm like, I never voted for that man. I'm not voting for him in this election. I never voted for him in any other. And the fact that you say that, you're really overplaying your hand. You're showing your true colors. You're showing exactly who you are and what your agenda is. So if I'm telling you that I want you to vote, but then I want to control who you vote for, then that means that I truly don't care about you. I care about myself. And here's the weird thing I'm going to say that's probably going to confuse you a little bit, but I want you to process it. There's not really anything wrong or abnormal with the fact that they care about themselves. Literally, there's nothing. That's how the world works. People take care of their own. That's how the world works. So I'm telling you, don't get mad at them for taking care of themselves. Don't get mad at Kamala for taking care of Kamala. Don't get mad at Joe for taking care of Joe. Don't get mad at Trump for taking care of Trump. I'm mad at you for not taking care of you. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying take care of you before you take care of them. And I need you to just do an equivalency check and say, I'm really going out hard for this person. If I really needed them, would they go hard for me? And if the answer is yes, then they've earned your vote. But if the answer is no, then you've got some soul searching to do, because that means that your self-esteem is a little bit out of whack. It's a little bit out of whack. So anyway, I know you guys are gonna. I'm sure that I see all kinds of comments flowing through. Some of you get what I'm saying, some of you don't, and it's okay if you don't. I'm not here trying to convince you that I'm right. I'm here laying out a point of view. And those of you who want to counter, then counter with something that makes sense. Counter with something that shows that your ideas are going to benefit black people. And then maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can prove me wrong. But unfortunately, you can't, because you know that they're on some bullshit. You know this. You know this as well as I do. So just stop it. Let's stop playing this game. Let's try to be serious a little bit. And remember this: they'll never take you seriously until you take yourself seriously. They will never take you seriously until you become a serious community. A serious community means that you should ask serious questions. Like somebody says here at this time, who do you think black people should vote for? I don't believe I have the right to tell you who to vote for. I just don't. So I'm not doing that. Who do I think you should vote for? I think you should vote for the person that works best for you. And if anybody can find something wrong with that statement, then that pretty much makes you a white supremacist, because you're upset that I'm telling black people to do what's best for themselves instead of letting white people tell you what should be best for you. So I'm sorry, I don't do white supremacy. I'm not a white supremacist. I'm not trying to be a racist against my own people. So get the hell up out of here with that nonsense. Y'all need to grow up. So thank you for listening, guys. I'm out of here. I appreciate it, the chance to talk to you. Hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button, and I'll talk to you guys a little bit later. I know we got turned up late at night, but this was just on my mind. And actually, I think I'm going to start reading more from Dr. Claude Anderson's books, because there's a lot of wisdom in his books that I think our people need, because sometimes we just get ass backwards and we start saying stuff that don't make no damn sense. And people know this. They study you, and they study the fact that ignorance is very popular in our community. Intelligence is not popular. Critical thinking is not popular. Strategy is not popular. Getting crunk in the club and rapping and singing and dancing, that's the most popular thing in the world. That's why they appeal to you through your entertainment because they know that you're easily distracted. Don't be distracted. Focus, goddammit. Focus. All right, so I'll see you guys later. Have a good night. Talk to you later. Peace.